Welcome to this Sunday's Gospel Reflection. A man's daughter asked the local priest to come and pray with her father, who was very, very sick in bed. When the pastor arrived, he found the man lying in the bed, and next to the bed there was an empty chair. And the priest assumed that it was for him to sit down and chat with the sick man. And he said, "Well, I suppose you were expecting me." "No," said the man. "Who are you?" "I'm the new priest. I thought the empty chair was for me to sit and we chat a bit." "Oh, yeah, the chair," said the bedridden man. "Would you mind closing the door?" And the man continued, "I've never told anyone about this, not even my daughter. You see, all my life, Father, I have never known how to pray. And so I abandoned prayer until one day, some years ago, my best friend told me, 'Well, Joe, prayer is just a simple matter of having a conversation with Jesus. So you do this, you sit down on a chair and place an empty chair in front of you, and in faith, you think of Jesus to whom you want to speak out your heart. Just speak to him and listen in the same way that you're doing with me right now.' So," continued the sick man, "I tried it and I've liked it so much that I do it a couple of hours every day. But I'll be careful. If my daughter sees me talking to an empty chair, she'd either have a nervous breakdown or send me to some kind of mental hospital." 2 nights later, after this conversation, the daughter called to tell the priest that her daddy had died that afternoon. And the priest asked, "Did he seem to die in peace?" "Yes," said the daughter. "He called me over to his bedside and told me one of his juicy jokes, and kissed me on the cheek. But when I got back from the store, well, I found him dead. But there was something strange. Apparently, just before my daddy died, he leaned over and rested his head on the chair beside the bed." You see, in today's first reading, Abraham seems to be facing a ferocious and angry God rather than a gentle and kind one. God who wanted to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. He threatened to destroy so many sinners, thousands of sinners. And Abraham, well, he tried to negotiate with God, asking him to lower the price. Will he destroy so many of his children? If he finds 50, then 40, 30, 20, and finally 10 good people in 2 whole big cities? But God is a hopeless businessman. He is much too soft-hearted not to lower the price. Our God, you see, is simply unable to count. He cannot manage numbers. He's never impressed by numbers, because every single human being who opens his heart to his unconditional love is equally valuable and sacred as all the billions of other human beings. He is the exact opposite of who we poor, fragile, limited human beings are, because we are so small-hearted, so small-minded, like the little ants in summer, busily gathering the scraps and tiny bits of nothing to fill their tiny houses. We are those little ants, and when we approach God with our small-mindedness, we are so absorbed and we want to gather those tiny scraps to survive. And we fail to see the infinite, enormous greatness of God's own heart, which is our real home. So we calculate and choose between whom to love and whom to hate, whom to accept and who to refuse. We count our benefits, our money. Our prayer becomes simply begging for things. and we become beggars, enchanted by the dream that God is someone who's going to fill our minds, souls, stomachs, lives with all the good things that we wish for. We call it praying. I call it begging. And in the Gospel, Jesus opens our minds and hearts to real prayer, in contrast to just begging. You see, the difference between the two is that begging concentrates on the things that we want to receive, whilst prayer concentrates on the giver whom we love. Begging might obtain what we need through persistence, but praying is all about a loving friendship. It is talking to the empty chair and not begging to some powerful and rich man sitting in the empty chair. We are so needy that all we do in prayer is inform Jesus, inform God of what are the things that we need most. And Jesus in the Gospel teaches us another form of prayer. Have you ever noticed that the first part of the Our Father is all about God? It is not about our needs. Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done. And the only need that Jesus speaks of is our daily bread. And what is our daily bread? What keeps us alive? Forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. Because what saves us is not the things we have, but the love that we receive from God. It is God's unconditional and forgiving love that gives meaning to our lives, and not just a satisfied existence free from all our needs. God is not a problem solver. God is a Father who is madly in love with us. And seeing God just as a problem solver, we go to Him to pray when we have problems. We talk about our problems. We talk about our difficulties. That makes us beggars. And our prayers become just begging sessions. But seeing God as a lover, as that sick man, so in the empty chair, then that makes us grateful lovers, turning our prayers into deep, intimate closeness of Him. True prayer becomes the happiness of a child that joyfully snuggles up to his loving dad or mom, saying nothing, asking for nothing more than the joy of just being so close to them. And that was the real prayer of the dying man who put all his trust, comfort, and peace in a presence that was empty of the material gifts that he needed, but full of Jesus' own presence. Blessed are we if our prayers turn us into intimate lovers of God. This changes our needy dependence on Him into a blissful, loving, and life-giving closeness to Him. Because the largest and most precious gift God gives us is His unconditional and tender love. This is the gift. This is the kind of prayer that changes us, and from needy beggars, it makes us become grateful and cheerful lovers of God.